The silent invasion. The observatory at Mauna Kea had never been so quiet. Dr. Maya Patel stared at her monitor, her coffee forgotten as the data streamed in. The anomalies had started 3 weeks ago. Subtle shifts in cosmic background radiation that shouldn't exist. Now, those anomalies had become something else entirely. "Are you seeing this?" she whispered to her colleague, Dr. James Kwan, who stood frozen beside her workstation. "I'm seeing it," he replied, his voice equally hushed. "But I don't believe it." The data showed massive objects decelerating from near light speed, emerging from what appeared to be fold space, something theoretical physicists had only dreamed about. And these objects were heading directly toward Earth. Within 24 hours, every major observatory on the planet had confirmed the findings. Within 48, amateur astronomers with backyard telescopes could see them. Hundreds of massive ships, geometrically perfect and gleaming like polished obsidian against the stars. The Veridan Armada had arrived, and Earth wasn't ready. Global panic erupted almost immediately. Stock markets crashed. Religious fervor spiked. Military forces worldwide went to their highest alert status. News channels broadcast nothing else, and social media became a storm of speculation, fear, and in some corners, desperate hope that these visitors might bring salvation rather than destruction. In Washington, D.C., the newly formed Emergency Response Council convened under heightened security. General Eleanor Hayes, a decorated veteran with steel-gray hair and a reputation for unflinching calm, addressed the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, as of 600 this morning, we count 347 alien vessels in stable orbit. They've made no attempt at communication. Our best estimates put each ship at roughly the size of Manhattan. Their technology is," she paused, searching for the right word, "beyond anything we can comprehend." President Alvarez leaned forward. "What about our defense capabilities?" The silence that followed was answer enough. "We've directed all available resources toward communication attempts," a young NASA director offered. "Every frequency, every mathematical sequence we can think of that might indicate intelligence. Nothing so far." Halfway across the country, in a cluttered university lab at MIT, Dr. Sebastian Reeves watched the same news everyone else did. But unlike most, he wasn't surprised. He'd been expecting this day for years, though his research had been largely dismissed by the scientific community. Sebastian was an outlier in theoretical physics. His work focused on what he called planetary resonance patterns. He believed Earth generated a unique electromagnetic signature, one that might interact with advanced technology in unpredictable ways. His colleagues had laughed when he published his papers. They weren't laughing now. His phone rang. A government number. "Dr. Reeves, this is General Hayes. We need you in D.C. immediately." The Veridan ships maintained their perfect formation for 3 days before anything changed. Then, precisely 72 hours after their arrival, every screen on Earth, televisions, computers, phones, even digital billboards, flickered to life simultaneously. The being that appeared looked almost humanoid, but wrong in subtle ways that triggered an instinctive unease. Its skin was a pale blue-gray, with fine scales that caught the light, 8 fingers on each hand, eyes too large and entirely black. When it spoke, its mouth moved slightly out of sync with the words. "People of Earth, I am Admiral Zirex of the Veridan Collective. Your planet has been selected for integration. Your resources will serve the greater expansion. Your biological diversity will be cataloged and preserved in our databases. Resistance is unnecessary and will result in accelerated processing. You have 24 standard hours to deactivate all defensive systems and prepare for the arrival of our processing teams." The message repeated in every known human language before the screens returned to normal. In the Pentagon's hastily assembled Alien Response Center, Dr. Sebastian Reeves stood before a room of military leaders and scientists. The Veridan Collective is known to other galactic civilizations as the Harvesters, he explained, displaying information gathered from the transmission's embedded data. They'd done this to 17 other worlds in the past century alone. And how exactly do you know this? Demanded a 4-star general. Sebastian hesitated. Because I've been receiving signals for years, warnings sent by survivors of other worlds. Most of my colleagues thought I was chasing alien radio ghosts. Why didn't you come forward? President Alvarez asked. I did, Sebastian replied quietly. I was labeled a conspiracy theorist and nearly lost my funding. General Hayes stepped forward. What matters now is what we can do. Dr. Reeves, your research on Earth's electromagnetic properties, could it help us? Sebastian moved to the electronic whiteboard and began sketching diagrams. Earth's core generates a unique electromagnetic field. It fluctuates in patterns we've never fully understood. My theory is that these patterns aren't random. They're part of an ancient defense system embedded in the planet itself. Laughter erupted from several military officers, but Sebastian continued undeterred. Ancient civilizations built structures, like the pyramids, Stonehenge, the Nazca Lines, at points where these electromagnetic fields are strongest. They weren't just religious sites. They were technology. Technology we've forgotten how to use. You're suggesting our ancestors built some planetary shield that could stop an alien invasion? A NASA scientist asked incredulously. Not built, Sebastian corrected. They discovered it, and they found ways to amplify it. The Earth itself has defenses that activate when certain types of technology enter its sphere of influence. General Hayes silenced the skeptical murmurs with a raised hand. What would you need to test this theory, Doctor? Access to those sites, and we need to try to activate them simultaneously. 12 hours later, Sebastian found himself at Giza, standing before the Great Pyramid with a team of scientists and military personnel. Similar teams had deployed to 11 other locations around the world: Stonehenge, Easter Island, Göbekli Tepe, and others. The ancients used these structures as resonance chambers, Sebastian explained as they set up equipment. They amplify the natural frequencies of the Earth, if we can generate the right counter-frequency. A young lieutenant interrupted, pointing skyward. Sir, you need to see this. Above them, visible even in daylight, one of the Veridan ships was moving lower in the atmosphere, directly toward their position. They know what we're trying to do, Sebastian realized. They've seen this before. Communications from other sites confirmed the same pattern, Veridan ships descending toward each ancient monument. The invasion had begun ahead of schedule. At Stonehenge, Dr. Mira Kapoor watched in horror as the obsidian ship descended. Her team worked frantically to implement Sebastian's calculations, calibrating equipment to generate the specific frequency he believed would activate the site's latent properties. Energy readings are spiking. One of her assistants called out, Something's happening. The air around the ancient stones began to shimmer, like heat rising from hot pavement. The Veridan ship halted its descent, hovering uncertainly. Similar reports came in from other sites. At Easter Island, the massive stone heads seemed to vibrate slightly. In Peru, the Nazca Lines began to glow with a faint blue light visible only from above. At Giza, Sebastian's equipment suddenly shorted out, sparks flying. But instead of stopping, the effect intensified. The pyramid began to emit a low, rumbling tone that vibrated through the ground beneath their feet. Above them, the Veridan ship appeared to distort slightly, its perfectly geometric form wavering as if seen through water. It's working, Sebastian breathed. The Earth is defending itself. In orbit, Admiral Zirex received increasingly frantic reports from his ships. The Veridan had encountered many types of resistance in their long history of planetary harvesting: desperate last stands, automated defense systems, even planetary evacuation attempts. But never had they encountered a planet that seemed to reject their very presence at a fundamental level. Pull back all ground teams, he ordered. Prepare the orbital harvesters instead. But retreat was already becoming difficult. Ships near the planet's surface reported propulsion malfunctions. 3 smaller vessels had gone completely silent. The perfect formation of the Veridan Armada began to break apart as ships struggled against an invisible force that seemed to be growing stronger by the minute. On Earth's surface, the effect was now visible to the naked eye. A faint aurora had formed, not just at the poles but worldwide, streamers of blue-green light dancing across the sky. And above, the Veridan ships were beginning to glow with the same eerie light. At Giza, Sebastian watched in awe as the pyramid's resonance grew stronger. The ancient structure was now emitting a visible beam of energy directly upward, connecting with the ship above. And that ship was beginning to fade from view. They're not being destroyed, he realized. They're being shifted, pushed sideways in reality. One by one, across Earth's sky, the massive Veridan ships began to flicker and fade. Some tried to escape, accelerating away from the planet, but the effect pursued them like a living thing, tendrils of blue-green energy reaching into space. In the midst of this planetary awakening, Admiral Xerex made a final transmission, his image now severely distorted. "This world is marked," he snarled, his voice breaking up. "The collective will return with." His image dissolved into static. Within hours, the entire Veridan Armada had vanished. Not destroyed. There was no debris in orbit, but simply gone, as if they had never existed. Earth's ancient defense had awakened, and the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath at what humanity had unleashed. Cosmic awakening. When the last Veridan ship vanished from Earth's orbit, the dancing lights in the sky didn't fade. Instead, they settled into a subtle shimmer that was barely perceptible during daylight, but transformed the night sky into a canvas of ghostly illumination. Astronomers noted that the stars themselves seemed slightly different, not in position but in quality, as if humanity was now viewing them through a new lens. Sebastian Reeves stood before the United Nations Security Council, no longer the dismissed academic, but a man at the center of humanity's new understanding of itself. "What we've witnessed isn't just a defense system," he explained, displaying complex data patterns on the large screen behind him. "It's a fundamental property of Earth itself. Our planet exists partially in what I can only describe as a pocket dimension, a space slightly offset from normal spacetime." "Are you suggesting Earth isn't real?" asked the French ambassador, voicing the confusion felt by many. "Earth is absolutely real," Sebastian clarified, "but it's protected. The ancient structures we've been studying aren't the defense system themselves. They're control points, interfaces that allow interaction with this natural property. Our ancestors knew this. Somehow, they discovered it and built these monuments to harness it." Dr. Mira Kapoor joined him at the podium. In the weeks since the Veridan disappearance, she had led research at Stonehenge, where the effect remained strongest. "We've recovered inscriptions and symbolism that appear across all these sites worldwide," she said. "They tell a fragmented story of visitors who came long ago, who taught our ancestors about Earth's special nature, and who may have helped establish these control points." "Are you saying aliens built Stonehenge?" a skeptical British representative asked. "No," Mira replied firmly. "Humans built these structures, but with knowledge that was shared with us. Knowledge that was eventually forgotten or deliberately hidden." In the weeks that followed, humanity struggled to adjust to their new reality. Religious institutions faced doctrinal crises. Governments scrambled to establish new protocols for potential extraterrestrial contact. The scientific community experienced the greatest paradigm shift since Einstein's relativity theories, and strange things continued to happen. At random points around the globe, brief shimmers would appear, windows into somewhere else. Most lasted only seconds, but they were documented thousands of times. Through these momentary portals, people glimpsed landscapes that couldn't exist on Earth, forests of crystalline trees, oceans of what appeared to be liquid metal, cities built from impossible geometries. Sebastian and Mira led a new international research initiative headquartered at Giza. Teams worked around the clock to understand Earth's awakened state and the technology embedded in the ancient sites. 3 months after the Veridan incident, their efforts produced the first breakthrough. "We've managed to stabilize one of the windows," Sebastian announced to the assembled research team. "It's small, just 30 centimeters in diameter, but it's holding steady." The window hovered above the apex of the Great Pyramid, a perfect circle of shimmering light that seemed to look out onto a starfield unlike any visible from Earth. "Can we send anything through it?" General Hayes asked. She had become the military liaison to the research team, her practical approach balancing the scientists' theoretical work. "We've sent robotic probes," Mira confirmed. "They register normal spacetime on the other side, but with different cosmic background radiation. Our best guess is that this window opens to a point approximately 12 light-years from Earth." "A portal," someone whispered, the science fiction term slipping into official discourse for the first time. "A highly unstable one," Sebastian cautioned. "But yes, essentially." That night, as Sebastian worked late in his lab beneath the pyramid, an alarm sounded. The window, which had been stable for nearly 48 hours, was fluctuating wildly. And something was coming through. The object that emerged was small, roughly the size of a basketball, and perfectly spherical. It hovered in the air before slowly descending to rest on the monitoring equipment. Security personnel surrounded it immediately, weapons drawn, but Sebastian waved them back. "It's not doing anything threatening," he observed. The sphere's surface rippled, and then it spoke, not in sound waves, but directly into the minds of everyone present. "Greetings, awakened ones. We have been waiting." Admiral Zyrex faced the collective council, his form now partially translucent, a side effect of his ship's transition through what the Veridan now called the Earth effect. Of the 347 ships that had comprised his armada, only 23 had managed to partially return to normal spacetime. The rest remained trapped in the in-between, visible occasionally as ghostly apparitions at the edge of scanner range. "The planet was not in our databases because it exists partially outside conventional reality," he reported, trying to maintain dignity despite his failure. "Our ancestors must have encountered it before and removed all records as a warning." The eldest council member, a Veridan so ancient that its physical form had been replaced by a containment field of pure energy, pulsed with displeasure. "This Earth presents a problem beyond mere harvest failure," it intoned. "If other species learn of a world that can reject our technology—" "There is more," Zyrex interrupted, a serious breach of protocol that showed his desperation. "Before we lost contact with ground teams, they reported finding evidence of elder race technology embedded in the planet's structure." A ripple of alarm passed through the council chamber. The elder races were believed to be long extinct, the first civilizations to achieve interstellar travel, who had mysteriously disappeared eons before the Veridan evolved. "The humans don't understand what they have," Zyrex continued. "They've activated it by instinct, not knowledge. If we could capture one of their scientists, study their research—" "No," the eldest member decreed. "Earth is now designated Quarantine Class Alpha. No Veridan vessel will approach within 10 light-years. Monitor only from maximum distance." As Zyrex departed in disgrace, the council began emergency deliberations. For the first time in thousands of years, the Veridan collective faced something they could not harvest, could not understand, and most disturbing of all, could not control. Back on Earth, the sphere communicated with Sebastian and his team for hours before other researchers could be summoned. It identified itself as an emissary from what it called the Conclave, a loose association of species who monitored dimensional anomalies throughout the galaxy. "Your world has always been special," it explained. "The founders, those you might call the Elder Race, chose Earth as a sanctuary world. They embedded the dimensional shifting technology into your planet's very core, designed to activate when threatened by certain technologies." "Why Earth?" Mira asked. "What made our planet special? Your sun's unique radiation signature, your strong magnetic field, your position in the galactic arm, all contribute. But primarily, it was your species' potential. The founders saw something in early humans that reminded them of themselves. And these founders, did they build our ancient monuments? Sebastian asked. No, they merely guided, taught. The work was done by your ancestors, who understood far more than you give them credit for. This knowledge was later hidden during periods of conflict, deemed too dangerous for warring factions to possess. In the days that followed, more emissaries arrived through stabilized windows at other ancient sites. Humanity learned they were not alone, but neither were they unprepared. Earth's awakening had sent ripples through the galaxy, announcing humanity's emergence to species who had been watching and waiting. Some, like the Conclave, were welcoming. Others observed from a distance, uncertain what Earth's new status meant for galactic politics. And some, like the Veridan, retreated in fear of the power humanity had unwittingly unleashed. 6 months after the Veridan disappearance, Sebastian stood at the base of the Great Pyramid with Mira and General Hayes, watching as a controlled dimensional window expanded to the size of a doorway. "Are we ready for this?" Hayes asked quietly. Sebastian smiled. "We've been ready for thousands of years. We just forgot." Through the doorway stepped the first official diplomatic delegation from the Conclave, beings of light, crystal, and forms harder to define. As they greeted Earth's representatives, the pyramid above them pulsed with blue energy, and somewhere in the distance between stars, the cosmic community held its breath as humanity took its first conscious step onto the galactic stage. Throughout the galaxy, news spread of the world that had defeated the dreaded Veridan, the blue planet whose awakening had shifted the balance of power among the stars. Some feared this new player in cosmic politics. Others sought alliance. A few ancient species recognized patterns they hadn't seen since the time of the founders. And Earth, cradled in its protective dimensional pocket, continued its transformation. The knowledge flowing in from other worlds merged with humanity's rediscovery of their own ancient wisdom. Cities began to incorporate technology that worked with Earth's natural energies rather than against them. The first human-designed dimensional windows opened to nearby star systems, leading to careful exploration. In a private moment at Stonehenge, as the stones hummed with their ancient power, Sebastian watched the stars with new eyes. "They've always been watching us," Mira said, joining him. "And now we're watching back," he replied. Above them, the night sky shimmered with possibilities, and Earth, awakened at last, prepared for whatever might come next from the depths of space.